Hello everyone, this is My Two Cents. Today we're going to be looking at some quick excerpts from the debate that took place about the GOP's tax plan last night between Senators Ted Cruz and everyone's favorite Democratic socialist, Bernie Sanders. The debate was hosted by CNN and moderated by hosts Jake Tapper and Dana Bush. I'll say up front that as a libertarian anarcho-capitalist, I am opposed to taxes, period. Taxation is theft. And that's where I deviate from both Senator Cruz and Senator Sanders. However, this debate was a wonderful example of how Cruz at least understands Basic Economics 101 and has researched the facts underlying tax policy. Bernie is either clueless or dishonest about what he knows about economics and can't even provide a coherent argument beyond, the Koch brothers should not be getting a tax break. The link to the full debate is in the description, but I'd like to go over just a few highlights. Let's start with Senator Cruz's opening statement.
We know this because there's a difference between facts and rhetoric. Bernie's tax plan cost over $13 trillion. That's what he's proposed raising in new taxes. And who pays for it? Well, the Democrats always talk about the millionaires and billionaires. But here's a simple fact. We could take every single person making $1 million a year or more and confiscate 100% of their income, everything they make, every penny. And it would raise about $1 trillion, about 8% of the cost of Bernie's tax plan. That means if you want tax revenue, you don't get it from the millionaires and billionaires, you get it from the middle class, you get it from the working men and women in this country. Tax cuts are about jobs and more money in your pocket.
That was so beautifully said. And notice how Cruz draws the distinction between facts and rhetoric. Bernie always talks about the 1%, the top 10% of income earners. But all you have to do is the math. Even if we took 100% of these people's earnings, it would hardly put a dent in everything that Sanders wants taxpayers to pay for. Besides that, economist Walter Williams recently pointed out that the top 10% of income earners already pay more than 70% of federal income taxes, while the bottom 50% pay only 2.83%. Are the rich not paying their fair share? Further, he points out the basic reality that it's tax cuts and not tax increases that cause economic growth. Less taxes means business owners having more money to hire more people. It means citizens having that little bit extra to buy that new phone or TV. When you raise taxes, people are forced to spend less, which in turn means less demand, which in turn means lower prices and fewer jobs. So what does Bernie have to say in his opening statement?
Here is the reality of American society today. For 40 years, the middle class of this country, the great middle class, has been shrinking. And what we have seen is a massive transfer of wealth from working families to the top 0.1%. Trillions in dollars because of corporate greed and an unfair tax system.
So he says that the middle class has been shrinking. I wonder why, Bernie. Do you think maybe it's because people see that the more they work to be successful, the more of their hard-earned profits the government will steal from them? Why would anyone try and work to pull themselves out of poverty, or even advance to a higher tax bracket, if they can instead just rely on the government to pay them other people's money? Also, a transfer of wealth from working families to the 1%? So is what you're saying that the 1% has begun barging into the homes of poorer Americans and holding guns to their heads demanding their money? No. That's what you want to do. People getting to keep their own earnings based on the decisions they've made is not greed. Greed is wanting to take, by force, other people's money. That's exactly what every social program you propose is, Bernie. Let's look at one of the better questions that Bernie was asked throughout the night.
John Conrad, who supports President Trump and runs a trucking company in Pennsylvania. He has a question for you, Senator Sanders.
Yeah.
Senator Sanders, over my lifetime, all we've seen is more government and more expenses, cutting taxes from top to bottom or bottom to top, however you view it. Then we'll give some relief to the burdensome expenses all Americans face. Why would you not want a tax cut across the board for all Americans?
Well, I do want a tax cut for the middle class and working families. But when the top 0.1% now owns as much wealth as the bottom 90%, when you have a handful of people with incredible wealth and power, no, I'm afraid that I will not support tax breaks for billionaires. Now, I don't know if you...
Yeah, we get it, Bernie. The top 0.1% doesn't need to have as much money as they do. Although what you call tax breaks is by definition just people getting to keep their own money that they have earned. However, might I remind you yet again that you made more than $1 million last year and you own 3 homes. Bernie, if you believe in equality so much, why don't you start with your own money? Sell that $600,000 beachfront home you've got and give the money to the poor. Invite some refugees and homeless to come live with you and feed them out of your own kitchen. Stop using private jets. Sell your nice cars. Start driving a Jetta. Spread your wealth to those who need it more than you. You're perfectly willing to spend everyone else's money, but why not your own? What's saddest about all this is I honestly think Bernie really doesn't see how much of a hypocrite he is.
Like the Walton family, do you really believe that the wealthiest family in America should get a tax break of up to $50 billion, that the Koch brothers should get a tax break of up to $30 billion? Do you think that makes sense?
I did say all Americans.
Well, do you think that the wealthy should not get tax breaks?
I did say all Americans.
Okay, well, I happen not to believe that the Koch brothers need a tax break. Okay.
Well said, Mr. Conrad. You did say all Americans. And Bernie, once again, just because you don't think the Koch brothers need the money that they have, it's theirs. And you can't just steal it because you don't think they need it. Why don't you start donating all of your lavish resources first before you start worrying about other people's resources?
Senator Cruz?
Well, let me say a couple of things. One, Bernie once again said, oh, look, it's the super rich that we're going to pay the taxes. It's the top 0.1%, the millionaires and billionaires. You notice Bernie hasn't responded to the simple fact that if we confiscate 100% of the income of everyone making over $1 million, it produces about $1 trillion. Where does Bernie get the other $12 trillion that he's raising taxes? It comes from the middle class. And by the way, if you confiscate 100% of a person's income, the next year they're not going to work or produce it if you're going to take 100%.
Exactly. And this is the biggest flaw of socialism. It might work the first time you steal from Peter to pay Paul. Problem is, Peter isn't going to keep working just so that Paul can have a free lunch. Once the incentive is gone, say goodbye to prosperity. History has shown this time and time again, from when it was tried by the Pilgrims at Plymouth Rock to what's happening in the resource-rich yet terribly poor country of Venezuela right now. Now, there's a lot more, so if you'd like to see the whole debate, check out the link in the description. Ted Cruz is an amazing debater, armed with actual sources and facts, while Bernie is just an old man crying about how the rich have too much money, so he should be allowed to steal from them. This isn't to say that I'm a huge Ted Cruz fan or that I support everything that he supports, but it is clear who won this debate. And as I've said before, under socialism, everyone will be equal once they're equally poor or equally dead. That's my 2 cents. Take it for what it's worth. Thanks everyone for watching. If you liked this video, please hit like and subscribe. You can also hit the bell to ensure you're notified every time I upload a new video. Also, if you like my channel, please consider becoming a patron so I can ensure that I have the time and resources to keep putting out content. For just $1 a month, you'll receive a shout out at the end of every video and the link to one of your social media platforms in the description. Also, once I make it to $5 a month total, I'll release the lyric video to Social Justice Warriors, my parody song of The Warrior. You can also follow me on Twitter, Minds.com, VidMe, and WordPress. Uploads are every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday, so stay tuned for more videos.